Hi, my name's Andy Fry. I'm here at the TellyCast How to Make Money in Digital event with Sam Barcroft, founder of Creatorville, and prior to that, Barcroft TV. Sam, lovely to see you. You kicked off the day for us with a really interesting session about your experiences. Can you kind of summarize the key messages you were trying to get across in that?
So, thanks, nice to see you, Andy. I suppose the key message I was trying to get across was that if you're an entrepreneur in the digital video space, you've really got to think about your end game right the way through building your business. So if you don't know where you want to get to, you're going to end up going down lots of different dead ends and bad places. So it's really about focusing on the outcome that you want to build from your endeavors in the digital video space. And so my talk was about how to sell your company, because in the end, I think most digital video entrepreneurs get so long in the tooth quickly that often they want to sell their business, and so it's really trying to help people to understand how the 5 steps towards selling your digital business.
Yeah, your 5 steps were really interesting because they kind of broke into some creative messaging and some commercial messaging, and this idea of your superpower and the importance of going after a niche, which I guess that's kind of a slightly different story to what it would have been when you started out, wouldn't it? But tell us about why it's important to go after a niche.
Well, basically the digital video ecosystem has exploded to the point that there's 500 hours of TV put up onto YouTube every minute of the day, and so to find audiences you can't try and compete with the incumbent big entertainment brands. You really have to build a community now, and actually it's much easier to build a small, highly engaged community right now across these platforms than it is to reach millions of people every day, especially when you're starting. And you actually build a better community because they're willing to spend money with you rather than just to watch the video. So I think it makes much more sense for people to narrow down to one thing that they think is an unmet need on a platform, and to really try and explode into an unmet need to actually solve a real problem online.
And it sounded like that unmet need, if it's a passion, if it's your fairy tale, as you put it, that's even stronger, isn't it? Because that, I guess, you come across as more authentic.
Yeah, you're definitely going to shine if you're talking about something you love. You're also going to have much deeper knowledge, which means your videos aren't going to run out of steam. And thirdly, people can just tell. If you're trying to build a community, they'll know whether you're one of them or not. And so if you go deep into those spaces, also building on YouTube and digital takes time these days, so you have to be able to stick with it. That's literally the #1 rule, is stick with it. And if you love something, you're much more likely to stick with it than if it's something that you're not that bothered about.
Another of your interesting points is about firing yourself, and I suppose that got into the thorny issue of selling the company. You've built it, it's time to sell it. So explain the fire yourself concept.
So I think if you're building a business that is fit to sell, you can't be a bottleneck within that business as an individual within that team or within that process. So I always encourage people to figure out how they can build long-lasting systems and processes so that if you pull them out of it, pull the founder out of the business still does really well. So after a certain amount of time, you need a succession plan. You need to build a business around systems and procedures and ways of doing things rather than just an individual bit of talent or hard work.
Okay, so now Creatorville. Tell us a little bit about what Creatorville is for people who don't know.
So Creatorville is a small business that is run by me that exists to help business leaders in the media space figure out their unique strategy. So I work one-on-one with business leaders and sometimes their leadership teams to figure out exactly how they can get fantastic success in the digital world. And it's really fascinating. I find it brilliant. I work really well with people who are trying to figure out some really tricky problems. It keeps me excited because no two companies are the same, and problems can feel very big, but when you share them, they can then feel quite manageable. So I love to help people transform from being bogged down by 1,000,001 different challenges into having a really clear plan about how they're going to achieve their ultimate objectives. And coaching people through that over a number of sessions is something that I love, and that often brings really fantastic results for those people.
So finally, I know you had to run away for some of the day to deliver a module. Did you manage to come back and see some stuff towards the end of the day? And if so, any particular highlights for you?
So, massive highlight for me was watching Tom Golsovan from Strongwatch Studios. Big fan of Tom's. His decks are something to behold. You know, I can see why they win a lot of business, because his sales presentation was off the charts. But also he's a brilliant thinker, Tom. He really understands models and he understands how to articulate these different ways of working. And his work on whether we need development producers anymore just was fascinating to me. The way that Strongwatch give one person responsibility for the idea for a show, developing it, pitching it, and then making it and delivering it and even directing it on the day, and then worrying about the distribution. That is a really, really brilliant new kind of fully verticalized model that I think is something we all need to think about. You know, is that an optimum way of making premium shows for YouTube in a really sensible, scalable model? I thought that was genius.
Yeah, and I loved what you had to say about iteration, about some of the things they learned during the course of that process, the way they changed their content.
Yeah, I mean, like, that is the classic test and learn methodology. You know, you're getting all this data within seconds of uploading a video. You can see what's working and what isn't. And their producers actually having the responsibility of not just coming up with the idea for the show, but actually having to do those tweaks in the distribution and delivery. I think that's something that a lot of people could scale from and learn from. It might be a model that's adopted, I would imagine, by another set of studios as well as Strongwatch.
Brilliant. Sam, lovely to talk to you, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, Andy. Take care.